Today we have with us Chris Daffy, who's a world-renowned expert on service. Chris is going to talk to us about some of the experiences that he's had and give us some real insights into what we can learn at the Royal Bank of Scotland Group from the companies that he's been associated with. So welcome, Chris.
Thank you. I'm flattered that you should ask me. Thank you.
First of all, Chris, I'd like you to just tell us a little bit about yourself and what qualifies you to be such a service expert.
Well, this subject of service is one that's occupied my mind now for about the last 15 years. I sold my business in the early 90s and then kind of went into academia for a while in Manchester Business School, and this was my focus of service. So I spent 15 years looking at it. I'm just one of the guys who's been around a long time and who's survived and still is considered to be knowledgeable on the subject.
You've clearly got a real passion for the subject.
Yeah.
What differences do you see between different organisations, or what similarities are there for service?
In those that make a difference, there are a lot of similarities. It's very interesting, Sarah, because very often when I'm asked to go and work with an organisation, within the first few minutes of the conversation they say, but of course, Chris, we're different to the other people you've worked for or worked with. And when you get down to it, they're not really. What they sell might be different, or the service they provide might be different. But the way they're going to use service to make a difference, a worthwhile difference, isn't that different, because it hinges on the people they have and the way the people treat their customers and the focus that they're given by their leaders and so on. So the actual bits that make a difference don't often change that much. So when I travel around Europe or other parts of the world and work with different organisations, what you find is more similarity than difference, to be honest. Certainly amongst those that that found ways to make a difference, there's more similarities than differences.
So for us in the Royal Bank of Scotland Group, we're a very diverse organisation. How would you say that we could foster a culture that would give us service excellence?
I normally recommend 3 steps, if you like, or 3 ways of thinking about it. And the first one you can just simply say is top down. I believe that if the leaders aren't absolutely convinced of and committed to making service make a difference, it doesn't matter what anybody else does, it really won't make a difference. Once top-down's in place, I like the phrase inside out. Some organisations approach service like a veneer on a piece of wood. We have this nice little bit of shiny surface, which we call customer service. Inside, it's pretty rotten, this wood, or it's pretty awful wood. That doesn't work. Customers can scratch through the veneer very easily and see what it's really like in there. It only takes a failure or a mistake or something to happen, and customers see what it's really like. So if you want to make service make a difference, it's inside out, and that normally means, it always means, we have to be delivering great levels of service internally to our colleagues before we can really think about delivering great levels of service externally to our customers. And then the third bit is one by one, person by person. You often get people saying, I can't make a difference, or the difference or what I do won't make that much difference, but it does. Lots of little things added together make a really big thing. So if we can get everybody saying there are things I can do which will make it a nicer place or a better place for me and my colleagues, that will deliver better service to my colleagues, and then through that will spread through the business, and so we deliver better service to our customers, we're making a difference. So everybody can make a difference.
Just back to that sort of how people behave, because that's what the customers see. What do you think is the most important service behaviour that we could encourage our people to display?
Things that in the past made us successful, maybe got us where we are, aren't enough anymore to keep us there. They have become necessary, but they're not sufficient to do it again in the future, because things have changed. And the focus in the past was always on giving good service, giving consistent service, giving reliable service, and all those things. Well, that's a given nowadays. I don't get excited because it's as good this time as it was last time. So question one is, what are the memorable things? Because those are the experiences. You normally say very good and very bad are memorable. Everything else is forgettable. So experiences have memory built into them. And the second thing to think about as experiences is, it will determine as to whether it's very good or very bad, or whether the experience will build positive behaviour in the future. The customer comes back and recommends, or negative behaviour, they don't come back or recommend others not to, through how we're making them feel. So memory and feelings are the things. If we make them feel good, make them feel happy, make them feel important, make them feel valued, they might come back, they might recommend and refer. If we make them feel unimportant, make them feel a nuisance, make them feel as though they're interrupting us, make them feel undervalued, they probably won't come back and will probably say, don't go there, it's not a very nice place.
It's interesting as you talk, because it really is the simple things
Yes.
that make the biggest difference.
Yes.
And I think, back to the beginning of the question, what can everybody do? Everybody has got a role to play in this, and everybody can make a difference.
We were talking earlier, I love this phrase that Anita Roddick used to use: if you don't think a small person can make a difference in a big organisation, try sleeping in a room with a mosquito. That's how much difference a small thing can make in a big organisation. We all make a difference.
Okay, so Chris, we're a bank.
Yes.
You've worked with a huge number of companies.
Yes.
What I'd be interested to know is, what are the things that make those companies really great at the customer experience that we as a financial institution could bring into our world to learn from them?
It's an interesting question, Sarah. I often find when I'm starting to work with an organisation, or whether they're wondering whether I'd be somebody to work with them who could help, within the first few minutes of us talking, or certainly during that first meeting, somebody's going to say to me, of course, Chris, our business is different to any other you've worked with. And that's true, because every business is different. But what I find is that although you can be working in different sectors, whether it be manufacturing or retail or finance or airlines or whatever, yes, the business is different, but the things that make that business good or the best at service aren't that different to other sectors. They're the same kinds of things. There's the same leadership focus and intensity of focus that leaders have. I often use Terry Leahy as an example. You cannot speak to Terry Leahy of Tesco without him talking about customers. It's almost every other sentence he's talking about customers. You get that intensity of focus in the leaders. You get an inside-out approach where everybody is expected to, required to, deliver the level of service to their colleagues that we then want delivering to customers. So it starts on the inside, and then you get an expectation that everybody will play their part. It's a person-by-person approach.
So Chris, we're facing in the financial services industry quite an unprecedented time for us.
Yes.
One of the questions that I've been asked an awful lot over the last few days and weeks is, well, Sarah, where does customer experience service fit in this world? It's quite a stretching time. What advice would you give to us as an organisation about what we can do to make sure that our customers do feel confident in our ability, and that they can trust us to see them through the next few months and years?
I think one mistake is that, or one error of thought or judgment is that we have to throw money at this stuff to be good at service, which you do not. It's not about how much you spend. It's about how good you are at what you do, or how focused you are on the customer, or how much care you take in dealings with the customer. It's not about throwing money at it. There's a hotel I go to where in winter, on a frosty morning, they go out and scrape the frost off your windscreen. So when you get to your car's ready to go. What does that cost? It's nothing, because the porters are not doing much that morning. So the things that make a difference, the attention to little things that will matter to customers, the things that will be memorable, that will make them think, I like the way they do that, they aren't costing money. The care that you can show for a customer who is troubled or worried about the situation now can build a reputation in the future. I'm a customer of RBS, by the way, and all my business banking is RBS, and I trust RBS because of the way they've helped me in difficult times in the past. That comes into its own now. Maybe you need us as much as we need you now, and now that relationship is tested, and there are things that people can do which aren't, it's not about how much money we spend, it's about how we focus our attention, which can build those relationships for the future.
One of the questions I'm often asked is, so why does it matter? Why does service matter? For you, can service really make more money?
If there are customers who we know bring more profit to the business, if we take the time and trouble to understand how they want service delivering to them, and we then make sure that we deliver that to them the way they want and better than any of our competitors do, that should attract more of them to us and keep them as our customers. That's got to make you more profitable. It's got to go to the bottom line.
I agree with you, Chris. Contact and consistency and really thinking, back to that thinking like a customer, understanding what they need.
Absolutely.
Well, we've come to the end of our session now, and I have to say it's been absolutely fascinating talking to you about a service, and I'm sure we could have spent many, many hours doing that. I really do appreciate your time today, so thank you so much for giving us those really helpful insights